Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to a special video where I'm going to talk about the purchase of 90 CDs in a 50-day period. And that's not typical for me. I mean, I purchase a lot and you guys see it in my New Music Now, my New Music Finds videos and so forth. I love hitting up Sound Exchange, which is why I'm wearing this shirt, because these 90 CDs were all purchased there. And I just love the content and stuff that this place has. What I purchased, I feel like, was absolutely integral to my collection. These are not just things that I was buying as sort of like, well, maybe I picked this up or whatever. No, these things were all stuff that I felt I really needed. A lot of them very rare. And so we're going to get into all of that. I will cover all 90 CDs in just a bit here, but before we do, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already subscribed, please do click the button. It would really help out. Also leaving a comment, hitting like, all those sort of things really help out as well if you'll do that. Plus, I like the community aspect of this where we can engage with one another and all of that sort of great stuff. So please do that. And of course, by clicking the subscribe, you're going to get the reminders and you'll be up to date on everything that's going on, just like this, with this special video about 90 CDs purchased in a 50-day period. So first of all, you can see the boxes that are behind me there. Each one of those holds 90 CDs in it. And I've done some of these other videos that are called Best of the Box, where I grab one of those and I go through it. And essentially that's what this is. This is like a special edition Best of the Box, because here is the box. Take the lid off of this. I'm going to hold this back up now. There you go. That is the 90 CDs we are going to go through here. And so let's go ahead and dive into this thing. First one up, Jan Ackerman. This is his latest solo album. I'm looking real closely at it here. Close to Beauty. There's a perfect tie-in there with that. Great album, of course, coming from Focus, but I sort of found him in a roundabout way with a band called Force Field. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit when we get to the F's, because we are going to go through this alphabetical. Got a Doug Aldridge solo album here. I think this is from 1997. Electrovision is the title of this thing here. Doug Aldridge, of course, coming from Lion, then Bad Moon Rising. He eventually joins Dio, then White Snake. He's now with the Dead Daisies. That guy is a beast. And continuing on with Doug Aldridge, I picked up three Bad Moon Rising. Well, it's the only three that they made, too. That's the debut, self-titled. This one here simply called Blood. And then this one here, Opium for the Masses, where they just went by BMR. But there on the back side of Blood, you can see Doug Aldridge there. It's got Cal Swan in the band. Cal Swan coming from Tyrant, new wave of British heavy metal band. Of course, going on with Lion and Doug Aldridge. So that was really cool. That was really just kind of like a continuation of Lion. All right, next up is a cool one. Bad Habits, spelled with a Z there. It is a tribute to Thin Lizzy. But we got two guys from TNT, Ronnie Lee Tecro and the bass player. Sorry, flip it over there. There you go. Morty Black, I think is his name, and I apologize if I'm mixing them up. Anyways, those two guys are in here, and they did a tribute band. They played live and everything, recorded this album. Ronnie Lee Tecro surprisingly has a lot of stuff out there. I'm going to get to another one of his later on in this, because again, alphabetical, but you'll be seeing some of that stuff. Found a Glenn Burtnick's second solo album here, Heroes and Zeros, original and impressing of it. Pretty cool. Most of us know Glenn Burtnick because he joined Styx, but great solo musician in his own right. Let's see, sorry if I get this right here. BXI, which is Boris and Ian Astbury of the Cult. So the Japanese band called Boris, real kind of experimental group, but featuring Ian Astbury of the Cult singing with them. Cool little EP there. Randy Coven, later era solo album from him called Which Way, W-I-T-C-H. He's a bass player, instrumental stuff, occasional vocal on there from somebody that'll guess, but I believe that one is all instrumental. Best of Randy Coven, found also, this is on Koch Records, which I thought was kind of cool, not just some throwaway label, but it features his first two solo albums plus CPR, Coven, Petrelli, and O'Reilly. They dropped the O, just R for O'Reilly, so they could be CPR, but it features tracks from all three of those albums on it. Speaking of Randy Coven's solo, I also have this one, Funk Me Tender, his very first solo. Just look at that, man. Total 80s right there. I think this was originally maybe like a 1985 recording or something, re-released later on in 87 or 88 or something around that kind of time frame. But man, absolutely love that. I love finding things like that. David T. Chastain, instrumental, one of his first ones here. This is Elegant Seduction. And I think he did 3 or 4 of these things. I flip it over there. You can see I've been into instrumental guitar for a little while, so that's kind of where some of this stuff is coming from here. You guys ever hear of Cats in Boots? Joe Ellis, who was in Heavy Bones. So I've got that here. I've got a Cats in Boots Last Works Japanese edition. Oh, I think it was the only thing that came out as Japanese album. Really, really raw stuff. He and the guitar player. So the thing about Cats in Boots was they were half, North American, US, and half Japanese band come together. So they got back together in 93 to 95 to record some stuff. Very, very different. It didn't, of course, sound sleazy and glam style like their debut album did. But it just didn't pan out for them. So these are really the demos. Pretty raw stuff. Just know that going into it. But, it's worth checking out. Continuing on, I got some Deep Purple, starting with this one here. This is 30 Very Best Of, but it's a single disc edition of it, which I didn't know existed. I've got a double disc edition. What I like about this is that it's got a lot of what I would call rarity stuff, meaning edits, remixes, alternate versions, that kind of stuff, which is pretty cool. Those were bonus tracks on some of the 20th anniversary reissues of albums and things like that. Found this one simply called The Collection. The tracks that are on here span from the Joe Lynn Turner era, but also into the Steve Morris era of the band. And so those 3 albums that comprise from Joe Lynn Turner, Ritchie Blackmore coming back, and Steve Morris, I've seen this compilation with various awful album covers, and that one was much better, so I decided to add it to my collection for that. Speaking of Steve Morris, I got some Dregs, in this case, just simply Dregs, as they dropped the Dixie, but they are Dixie Dregs. So Steve Morris there, Unsung Heroes, Nobody's Got a Mouth, thought that was kind of cool. Just a best of the Dixie Dregs, different one here on Grand Slam Records, not their major label album, came later on in their career. Got this one here called Night of the Living Dregs, very good, and their debut, Free For All, the classic. Continuing, got some Dictators here, a compilation that I didn't know existed, Faster, Louder, best of from 75 to 2001. I don't think there's any rarities on here, but it does cover their albums, which up to this point there had not been a compilation like that, at least not one that I was aware of. I had a compilation of B-sides and rarities and stuff, which is very, very cool, but I was glad to get a hold of that. That's on the Raven label. Ronnie James Dio, the story of Ronnie James Dio, Mightier Than the Sword, a 2-disc compilation that spans his whole career. He had one out that only went up through the early 90s. This one here picks up and continues on with his later day albums and with the sort of Black Sabbath reunion, Heaven and Hell. So kicking off with Elf, Rainbow, Black Sabbath, into Dio, lots of great stuff. An extreme compilation called Running Gag. It does have some album cuts and stuff, but it also has some an unreleased outtake from the album sessions. It was Waiting for the Punchline, and 3 live recordings on it, which is very cool. Emerson, Lake and Powell was into, well, both at the time, but really Cozy Powell, which made me reach out to get this. Of course, that was an intended reunion of ELP with Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Didn't happen, so they drafted in Powell. Emerson, Lake and Palmer, The Beach or Love Beach. This is a cool one here. It's one of the reissues. It's got a 1978 alternate mix of the album on here. I love those. I wish, more bands have those things. They should definitely put that kind of stuff out. And then I got both of the Works albums, 1 and 2. The B-sides being on the 2. Tarkus. And then, as I mentioned, Forcefield. Picked up 3 of these with Cozy Powell, but we also got This is Ray Finwick and Graham Bonnet in this one. And then we've got Jan Ackerman in here lineup. So that's where I started to notice him from. I believe he also plays on 2. But these are very good. This has Tony Martin from Black Sabbath, and this one here being another one with Graham Bonnet. So we are 30 discs in, 1/3 through. Let's continue on. All right, you guys ready to get into the next 30 of this box? Let's dive right into it. First one up, Ellen Foley, Spirit of St. Louis, solo album. I just bought this on vinyl. Was not expecting to find it. Original Epic Records issue of this thing. If you're a fan of Meatloaf, you're going to like her. She sang on Bat Out of Hell. A lot of those little side projects with like Carla DeVito. She was another one. They're very good stuff. You should search them out if you're a fan of Meatloaf and his things. Got a Glenn Frey live album, MCA Records. I like the kind of live shows that are the big arena ones. This is one of those shows there. Great mix of his Eagles stuff, but also the solo era. For me at least, I always want it to have the latest of whatever solo album it is or album that a band is performing from. This one has that. In fact, I think that's the only live album that he put out. Maybe we'll start getting some archival stuff now. This next one was a super find for me. The Fix, Missing Links. I don't know how I missed it the first few times I was in the store, but I found it, I came across it, and I'm just blown away. Fuel 2000 release, very hard to find. Alternate versions, B-sides, remixes, stuff like that. I'm a huge Fix fan. And I think this was like right around when the brand new album came out, so it was just a perfect tie-in to have found it. All right, next up we got Fergie Frederiksen and his debut solo album, I believe. I don't think he had done one before this, Equilibrium. Put together, with a lot of cool backing people. We got Ricky Phillips from Bad English. Of course, now he's in Styx. Bruce Gowdy of Unruly Child. Tim Pierce, who's played with Rick Springfield. Jason Sheff from Chicago. Ron Wixco from Foreigner. Neil Sean on Journey. Steve Porcaro, Toto. I mean, very cool. And of course, if you don't recognize the name, and I apologize, he sang for Toto on an album called Isolation that was really, really good in my opinion. Debut solo album from Gowan, Lawrence Gowan, who of course now is with Styx, and good stuff. 1982, Canadian artist, taking over for Dennis DeYoung and Styx, but I'm loving his solo stuff. Found a very cool Georgia Satellites EP, Never Stop Rockin'. 7 tracks. There you go, there's the Japanese writing on it. OBI's on the inside of it. But we got a cover song from John Fogerty on here, a couple unreleased Georgia Satellite songs, a remix, and 3 live tracks, making it very cool. And then you just saw the little clip for this one here, Roland Gropow from Halloween, solo album Kaleidoscope. Cool thing is Michael Visara is performing on here, coming from Loudness, other projects and stuff like that, but he sings on it, making a fantastic album. If you're a fan of Halloween, check this out. I can't recommend it enough. Honeymoon Suite album that I didn't have in my collection, Racing After Midnight. Not seeing the year on it just yet because look how tiny that writing is. All right, but good album nonetheless. Found it during the pandemic and lockdown how much I love Canadian artists. And I didn't really know that until I started looking up where people were from and whatnot. So you've already seen a number of them I pointed out that are Canadian artists, but of course it will just continue. Cool Hanoi Rocks and Michael Monroe compilation, All Those Glamorous Years. Turns out it only has 2 Michael Monroe songs on it, with the rest being Hanoi Rocks. But I didn't have a single disc compilation of Hanoi Rocks, so that was good. Japanese edition there. Hoodoo Gurus Best Of, called Golden Watch. 20 golden hits on it. Brand new track that was on it in the time that it was recorded. Something from every one of their albums on here. And of course now I'm looking forward to the brand new one. I think it's called Chariot of the Gods, that comes out next week. So tune in for that. I believe that is August 26th, maybe? I'd have to do the math, sorry. Hoodoo Gurus, this is called Blow Your Cool, and the album itself, 1987 release. First one I picked up, very good, and I had a couple others in my collection, but this one was a used one. Had some cool used stuff there. That was the thing. They have a used section, and I had some great finds. In fact, I want to back up just a second real quick because I didn't get to mention it when I was talking about Fergie Frederiksen. I found a used copy. It was not in good condition. A couple weeks later, I'm looking through, maybe it was the Toto section, and I found that one for just regular price. So the store is cool because they got a lot of different areas in it. And if you don't like the condition of one, or maybe the new copy is too expensive, go check the used section. You never know what you're going to find. Kelly Keeling from Baton Rouge, solo album. Knew about this one, digitally streamed it, didn't own it, glad to add it to the collection. Same thing with this next one, Kingdom Come, Master 7, Japanese edition, one of the missing albums I did not have in my Kingdom Come collection. I had bought a digital version, downloaded, ripped a copy out of, burned CD copy of it. So glad to get an official one there and have it in. Here's one that was a cool find, totally wasn't expecting this. Greg Lake and Jeff Downs, Ride the Tiger. Album that these guys recorded together, never came out, finally got issued only just recently, like 3-4 years back, I think it was, on their own Manticore Records. Good stuff though. If you're a fan of Jeff Downs or Greg Lake from ELP, check that out. And you just saw a little clip from this one here, from Greg Lake, solo album from him that is called Maneuvers. It's on the Rock Candy Records reissue label. Greg Lake, loving his stuff. Of course, the tie-in with what you saw earlier in the ELP, and then the one with Jeff Downs. Steve Lukather, Candyman. So this one came out in a bunch of places under a band name, Los Lobotomies, something like that. But in a couple places, and I believe it was just in Europe, Candyman solo album. Same stuff, good album though. Phil Lynott compilation called Yellow Pearl, covering his 2 solo albums. And it's got some stuff from Gary Moore, like Parisian Walkways is on here, and some alternate versions and things of that nature, making it a cool little 20-track collection. Love Mongers, Whirligig. I didn't have this one in my collection. I don't know what rubbed me the wrong way about it at the time, but I'm in the need of some Heart, and it's basically Heart with the 2 sisters, Nancy and Ann Wilson there. It's what they did, of course, after Heart split up originally in the early 90s. A Loudness album, Law of Devil's Land, real Japanese copy of it, because even the name and everything is in Japanese in here. One of their early albums, in fact, I want to say that might be their 2nd album, could be their 3rd. Picked up some Montrose on Rock Candy Records. Already had a copy of this on in a little paper sleeve version, but Rock Candy just does them so well, and the remastered sound on that is so much superior to that Warner Brothers little 5-disc collection. I'm looking for the rest of those too from Rock Candy, and as I find them, I'll dig it up. Here's a cool one, Mayfield, which, there you go, features Kurt Smith in here. So solo album that he did. I think they might have done 1 or 2, not sure how many they put out, but that was good there if you're a Tears for Fears fan. Moody Blues, Voices in the Sky, compilation I didn't already own. Just enjoyed it because it kicked off with Ride My Seesaw, as I'm Just a Singer in a Rock and Roll Band. Ends with Nights in White Satin, which is a song that to me is too overplayed, they're known for, but it's the last song on there, so it doesn't break up the flow and I don't have to skip past it, kind of a thing. Talking about Steve Morse earlier with Dixie Dregs, picked up some Steve Morse, major impacts, of course. This is all to tie in with the fact that he has chosen to leave Deep Purple. Huge heartbreak for me, gut punch, but he's doing it for a good reason. His wife has stage 4 cancer. I totally respect that and will support him in it, but I'm just inside, I'm dying because I absolutely love him with Deep Purple. Another one here, which is called High Tension Wires. Good one here on the Metal Mind label. Limited edition gold disc, number 469. Those are some of the only digipacks that I actually like. Nazareth, Then and Now compilation. I just covered their 2 albums at the time that they did for the CMC label. This is out on Sanctuary. Nothing new or unreleased on that, but it's got live material from like 81, 82, 83 in that era. A couple different concerts, and then some stuff from the studio album Boogaloo is thrown in. First Nectar album, they were playing this in the store the day I was there, was loving it. Remember the Future. I'm going to be getting some more, haven't picked up any additional at this point, but that was my starter. And Clive Nolan, Oliver Wakeman being the son of Rick Wakeman, Clive Nolan being from Pendragon and Arena, did this concept album called Jabberwocky. Hired a bunch of cool vocalists in there to do the different parts and stuff. If you're into Yes, if you're into Pendragon, you will love that. Super big find for me, at least. I've been looking for this one for a long time. Graham Nash, Innocent Eyes. It's fully rooted in the 80s. This one here's a 1986 album. I love the 80s sound. So an artist like this, a folk artist, Graham Nash, coming from the Hollies and Crosby, Stills and Nash, making an album that was purely of the 80s with the synthesizers and everything. Oh, I was loving it. Poco Legacy Reunion album. Really, really great one here. I've got a limited edition one with all this cut out and everything that's very cool, the way that it opens and whatnot, but needed a jewel case edition of it. And this one here, Robert Plant, Fate of Nations. First Robert Plant album I got. Absolutely fantastic, heavier side of Robert Plant. I've got a box set of it, but I don't really like the way it operates. There's individual sleeves that are part of the book and you can't get them out. So I've decided to recollect these. And it's been a long time coming for me to actually find that album on jewel case. So there you go. We covered another 30. We're down. Let's keep on going. All right, next 30 up here. Kicking off with a brand new release that just came out this past week, August 19th. David Paich of Toto, Forgotten Toys. Really, really good album, solo album by him. In fact, it's the first solo album from David Paich from Toto. I mean, shocking there's never been one before because he is really, really good at what he does. To me, he and Steve Lukather make Toto. One or the other can't do it on their own, but got some guys on there. I think you actually have Steve Lukather playing with him on some of these tracks, and he's got Joseph Williams too, Toto vocalist, so very cool. Another newer one, Alan Parsons, called From the New World. Picked this one up. That's what's great about Sound Exchange. Not only do they have used, they've also got new, like catalog type stuff, older albums and things that are new, real good prices. But they've got brand new releases the day they come out. Again, I'm not doing this so much to promote them as I just love the store. That is my thing. It's been 30 years since I have found a store this great. That is really why I've been going on, and you guys have seen so many videos surrounding it. It's just something that my passion with music, I have found sort of kindred spirits there at that store and just loving it. Cozy Powell Forever, very cool, Japanese only release compilation. Well, not compilation. It is. It's a compilation of Cozy Powell's songs, but they're re-recordings by Japanese musicians. It's got people from Loudness doing it. The drummer in particular is the guy that put this together. But it's also got, I think Vinny Appice is playing in here, but it's got some really, really cool stuff, and they do a cover of, range of stuff from Rainbow in through solo stuff that he did. It's got some White Snake, touches on a little bit of everything there, which is really cool. Here's an actual compilation of Cozy Powell that I picked up, covering his first 3 solo albums that he did. A lot of cool guests on this. Don Airey, Jeff Beck, Jack Bruce, John Lord, Bernie Marsden, Gary Moore. Great stuff there. Made me re-explore him. Found this, have been looking for this forever. It is the first Cozy Powell solo album, Over the Top. Only 7 tracks on here. 5 of them actually appear here. Didn't know that at the time when buying it, but I have to say I'd rather listen to the 7 tracks of the full-length album than to just listen to part of a best of like that. Been looking for this one for a while. Rolling Stones, Made in the Shade, an older compilation of theirs. Nothing rare on this one here in particular, but I liked fleshing out my collections, and I like having them from particular eras when I'm in the mood for a period of a band and they've got a compilation that fits just that. I always enjoy it. Stan Ridgway solo album. In fact, I believe it's the first one. The Big Heat coming from Wall of Voodoo. In fact, I got some Wall of Voodoo coming in later on. And here, cool, I actually don't know if this is Japanese or what, but it is a foreign import to the US, at least. Michael Shankar Portfolio, the definitive collection, which is cool because it covers not only UFO, it's got his time with Scorpions, and it's got his solo stuff with MSG on it. I don't know any other compilation that he has that has studio versions of all of those tracks on there. So he's done a live show that covers it all. Cool Scorpions compilation here called Still Loving You, but it's got 9 remixes of songs. And not like dance remixes, just cool remixes, beefs them up, that kind of stuff, making that compilation totally worth owning. Scorpions, best of the ballads, hot and slow. And they're not all slow ballads. They write a lot of love songs that are just outright rockers. So cool little collection there, like picking those up, those out of print ones. Next one was a really cool find for me, a best of Styx. And it focuses on their first 4 albums, although I think it actually skips anything from the first one, which they were still kind of finding their footing. Focuses on the last 3. This is the Wood and Nickel period. If you've got the Wood and Nickel sort of anthology that is all 4 of those albums on 2 CDs, you've got this. Nothing rare. Sorry, flip it over there for you. But the way that the tracks are organized on here, and it definitely focuses heavily on James Young singing, which I think is really cool. So this makes it a much more hard rock sounding Styx than when we focus mostly on the Dynasty Young period, which comes later. A lot of ballads, things of that nature on it. This is before Tommy Shaw, so he's not there, but we do have the other vocalist that was in the band at the time, another guitar player. Another newer release here, Derek Sherinian, Vortex. Wasn't planning on picking this up, but the store had it, and I saw it. It has a lot of cool guest artists on it. Derek Sherinian coming from Dream Theater. Also Sons of Apollo now, and lots of other projects that he has done. Good stuff there, instrumental keyboard playing. Timothy B. Schmidt, a Japanese release of this album here, Tell Me the Truth, that was originally out in 1990. Just was in the mood for something like that, kicking that off, and in the end actually ended up picking up more Timothy B. Schmidt. In fact, I went in for this one here, Playing It Cool. This one here is on the Freddie Music label. Debut solo album, I think, came out in 1984. Looking for it on Wounded Bird, haven't found it, one of those very hard to find ones. And it was interesting because I had gone in and bought this one here and this next one I'm going to show you. They had this in the back and pulled it out. And so one of my second or third trips there, I found it and was like, hey, I was looking for this first, buying the others. And like, oh yeah, because of that, we went into our back stock, saw we had something else and put it out there. So Expando's the other one I bought. I ended up buying 3 Timothy B. Schmidt albums. This is a 2009 release, and just everything he does is great. Haven't had a lot of his stuff, but I'm just finding that I really love his vocals and the way he puts the melodies together when he sings. Picked up a Grace Slick album, Manhole, that I didn't have. Came out originally in 1973. It's got all the Jefferson Airplane, Future Jefferson Starship members in there guesting. They were all still friends at that time, making albums together. Patti Smythe, think I'm saying that right, debut solo album after leaving Scandal. Never Enough, really just a continuation on from Scandal. If you like that, you're going to like that. This album here. Jeremy Spencer Band was a guitar player with Fleetwood Mac, early Fleetwood Mac in fact, but this one here came out in 1979. I think he did some stuff in between there. What I like about this is it's got a real funk, R&B, almost disco tinge to the rock songs that he does. Not a lot of bands out there doing that in that era, that late 78, 79, 1980, even 81. There was this weird sort of funk, rock, R&B, disco thing that rock bands were doing. I often compare or use as an example Fandango, which I know a lot of you don't necessarily know about. Joe Lynn Turner was the front man. These albums that came out, it was just this little mini genre that didn't really occur very widely. And I'm loving finding one-off albums by bands that did that sort of stuff and being able to listen to it all. I'm hoping to get enough where I can get into like a kick on that style and have 20 or 30 albums. I would say at this point, I'm lucky if I've got 5 albums with that. Anyways, on to the next thing here. Chris Squire, Steve Hackett, named Squacket. Don't know why that didn't take off. There you go. Life Within a Day. Good album here. Perfect combination of those two being together, but that name probably prevented it from people really being like, hey, what is this? Unless you know the two names of the people. Sly, a Japanese band that featured the original vocalist and drummer from Loudness. After they left, went on and formed this band, made a couple albums. Was very much enjoying that. That's a tie-in with that Cozy Powell Forever. Both those guys are there. Found this on the same day and that Loudness. So like, this story is so great because I went on different days and I kept finding things from past trips that I overlooked for whatever reason because there's just so much stuff in that store. All right, you saw the clip for this one here. Tigers of Pantang, new release, an EP called A New Heartbeat. 2 new songs and 2 re-recordings. I love the new lineup. This is a band that I actually think is better today than they were back then. And I know John Sykes was a member early on, but I really, really like what this band is doing today. Found an old out-of-print 38 special album here. This one called Strength in Numbers. Checking the date on it real quick here. 1986, I believe, if I'm reading that right. Just an out-of-print album, very hard to come by. I will take anything 38 special when I come across it. Missing a few more from the 80s. Hope to find those soon. And when I'm finding these, I'm either finding them used or I'm finding them still sealed in plastic for like $13.98. Really good deal. Even though they're out of print, they should be marked up. The store's not doing that. And they know they're out of print, but they are being true to their customers, which I think is cool. Utopia, POV. Great album here featuring Todd Rundgren on it. Want to collect the rest of those. I've got an early 70s, more proggy version. This is the more new wave version of the band. Mentioned Ronnie Lee Tecro earlier, said I was going to have something else. Vagabond. And this one here being the first Vagabond album. I think they made a couple more of these. I've been told that check those out, but very cool. So this is actually got, if I'm not mistaken, 3 members from TNT, continuing on, the drummer, bassist, guitarist Ronnie Lee Tecro. Morty was the bass player. I forget the drummer, or I'm confusing it, but they added a singer here and they continued on as Vagabond. A little bit different sound, not quite TNT, definitely of the 90s. Good stuff. All right, first I found this, a John Wetton anthology of the studio material, 2-disc set, very cool. Didn't realize I would love his solo stuff as much as I did. Whenever I tested something out years ago, it didn't work for me for whatever reason. Must have listened to the wrong thing because I'm absolutely loving that. So I picked up 2 more John Wetton solo albums that I didn't even know existed. Again, passed over at some point. This section that I found it in, that was the only thing. Found these in a different location. Not meaning like misfiled, but the store has different stock in different places for different reasons. Like the used is all together, the new stuff is all together, imports, So found these 2. Battle Lines is a great one. Archangel, the follow-up. So solo albums 1 and 2. Steve Vai presents Western Vacation. Nothing more than he guests on one song. A bunch of his friends lent them his studio. This is an album that they made. Very cool. It's on Favored Nations, which is his label. Talked about Stan Ridgway and having something else. Wall of Voodoo. This is a great album here. Call of the West, which of course has the famous hit on it, Mexican Radio. but a lot of other good stuff too. Rick Wakeman, got a bunch of, relatable stuff that has been in here with him as well. Criminal Record album on A&M, a reissue of it, and already out of print. I think that was reissued in like 2018 or something. Last but not least, and a band that I absolutely love, again tying in there with Rick and some of the other prog greats. Yes, it is a best of that is simply from 70 to 87, and it is something from each one of these albums that you see pictured there, although I think they do leave off one of the albums on here. Can't remember the name of it. It's the one with the buildings and the naked dude on the front, but there you go. I'll remember it later on after we're done filming. But there you go. 90 CDs that I purchased in a 50-day period from June 27th to August 15th. It kind of blew my mind when I started gathering it all up to put in this box here, which I will refill back up. And you know what actually turned out, because it's not August 15th that I'm filming this, I'm actually filming this on the 19th. I bought some more stuff, so it's more like 100 CDs, right? And this isn't even covering the stuff that I bought new from Amazon or other music stores. This is just 90 CDs in 50 days from my new favorite store, Sound Exchange. If you're not familiar with them, do check them out. In fact, I'm going to leave an email. If you're looking for rare stuff, you can reach out to the store owner, Anthony, ask him about it. He is happy to check for you. If you're living very far away, if you pay the shipping, he is happy to ship to you. All right, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this video. Certainly leave your comments, let me know your thoughts, and I hope maybe it sparks some ideas for you to go out and check out some stuff. Take care, have a good one, and I'll be talking to you real soon. Bye-bye, everyone.